Hello, sister leaders. This is Dr. Karen Hillspruden here. And whenever you see this red behind me, I am not alone. I have a powerful leader in the house, and today is no different. I have Dr. Lawanda Holliman. Is it Holliman? Yep,
Holloman. Yes, you got
Holliman.
it. Yes.
And we're going to find out all about her. But because she's a bad mama jamma. Before we get into the questions, because I like to get up in all everybody's business, I'm gonna ask her to introduce herself, talk about the clients that she serve and a little bit about the services that she provide, and then we'll get into the questions. So, Dr. Lawanda, welcome to the Sister Leaders community.
Hello, 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 everyone. Dr. Karen Pruden, I am so excited to be here talking with you from one bad mama jamma to another. It is my privilege to be in this space with you. As you mentioned, my name is Dr. Lawanda Joseph Holliman, and it is truly an honor to be here. I come from a background that spans over 2 decades of military leadership, where I learned what it means to lead under pressure. That's a place where decisions matter, much like in corporate. Clarity matters, and people are depending on you whether you feel ready or not. Today, I serve as the founder of Design High Performance, where the focus is very, very simple, but it's intentional. And that is where we help leaders make high performance the norm, not the exception. Um, so that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Y'all see how she stopped there. You know how they start getting humble, but that's okay because we're gonna ask some questions. We're gonna find out everything. So that is okay. So let's get with it. So my first question is: you served over 26 years in the U.S. Army and retired as a colon. Is it colonel?
Colonel,
Colonel.
yes.
What what pivotal leadership moments shape your philosophy the most?
Mm. I think one of the pivotal moments was when we were doing an operation um, during Operation Iraqi Freedom. And we had a significant concern about being able, first of all, I'm a retired logistician, logistics. We get things in the right place at the right time. And so it's very important that we're able to move equipment where it needs to be in a timely fashion in order for us to do the work that was necessary. So I worked across the US, the Middle East, and some other areas. And while I was doing that, we encountered a significant issue with being able to get everything in a particular location. And so we can have the best equipment doing phenomenal things, but if we don't have the people to ensure that they operate and move it the way it needs to be moved, then what's the point? And so, what that taught me was mission first, which is something as a commander I would always tell my soldiers mission first, people always. Without people, we wouldn't be able to do the mission. But without the mission, we wouldn't have a need for the people. So they're both. It made me realize that in order to perform at high levels, there's a duality to this thing. There must be a focus on the people and a focus on the mission. And those things must work concurrently together.
I like that. And that is true for the civilian world as well. Is there
Mm.
without the people, nothing else really matters because if you don't have the right person in the right role with the right skills at the right time, then it's at whatever your vision and mission is, you're not gonna reach it the way that you envisioned that you were gonna reach it. So
Mhm.
certainly there's some synergy between civilian life and military life. So my next question is, what lessons from military leadership translate directly into corporate and entrepreneurial environments, and what doesn't?
Mm. For me, because I had the honor of working both military and also in corporate, I did not separate the two. I just used what was necessary in the particular moment, right? Each culture has its own dynamics. So I'll say it like this. What informed my work and the work that I'm doing with design high performance, making it the norm, not the exception, has a lot to do with the experiences I've had, both military and in corporate, as well as the degree I got, my PhD in organizational leadership. So it's the intersection of the experience, the education, and the exposure. And what that centers around is that most leaders are navigating, whether they say it out loud or not, they're navigating. I'll talk about three things. They're carrying responsibility while managing complexities. And if we look in corporate America, we see that it's a complex environment. Whether you're in education and you're being asked to meet these requirements, but the resources are dwindling. Or whether you have unresourced requirements from a military perspective, or a government perspective. We see what's happening in our government today. So carrying responsibility while managing complexities of it. The second thing would be making decisions without always having full clarity. That's something like what information is informing the decisions that are being made, and do you have the right information that gives you enough clarity to prioritize what needs to happen next? And then the third thing I'll mention, although there are more, leading people while also leading yourself.
Hmm. Tell us more.
Okay. So what I mean by that is, as leaders, how we treat others is a direct reflection of how we feel about ourselves. Particularly when you're under pressure, pressure doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you are at your core. Anyone can lead when conditions are perfect. And because I've been in high stakes industries, even in corporate, regulatory issues and the interstate, just a lot of regulatory things that you have to adhere to. And then in the military, working in high stakes environments, when you are under pressure, what is in you will come out of you. And so it's very important to look at how do you set the conditions for not just people to perform at high levels, but you to perform at high levels. So, in order for you to translate that to someone else, you must first be operating in that capacity. I can't give what I don't possess.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if,
I've heard that before. Yep,
yeah,
I've heard that before.
yeah. So if I'm not um, practicing disciplines of awareness and emotional intelligence, not that, I mean, people get things done. People literally get things done who are not emotionally intelligent, right? Based on transactions.
Yes.
But if you want to sustain high performance under pressure situations, then it's going to take a little bit more than just a transaction.
I can see that. I can see that. And I'm sure people in the audience can see that as well.
Uh,
A few more questions
mhm,
in the same line of that. I actually call these questions leadership journey and foundation.
mhm.
So, was there a defining moment where you realized leadership is more about culture than authority?
Mm. Yes, when you want to perform at a high level, it's not about doing more. It's about seeing clearly, deciding intentionally, and leading in a way that creates alignment, not just activity. So if, so when I started my leadership journey, I was a young 20-something-year-old leading people who were 40s and 50s, okay, who had a lot more experience than I had. Fortunately for me, my father was in the military. He was a non-commissioned officer, where I was a commissioned officer. And so our focus was different, but I actually went through basic training, regular, basic training. And so I learned a lot about the importance of connecting with those that you desire will follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that was pivotal for me because as a 20-something-year-old, even though I grew up in a military household, my formative years, I read this book called Little Miss Know-It-All, and I loved that book because she knew it all. And the reality was, nobody knows it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started leading people, it was very humbling. One, to honor the people who I was working with, even though I was, quote unquote, the one in charge of my platoon. They had so much more experience than I had. Now, I had the experience that I had, but I found that when I treated them with the same level of respect that I wanted, things worked out so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed us to communicate in a respectful versus an authoritative manner, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Um, I honored them, and in so doing, they were willing to protect me and help me learn things that I didn't know so that I could be positioned for success. So
Absolutely.
even in my situations where we were in very high tense situations, um, no one ever got mad at me for treating them with respect. No one did. In fact, it allowed me to learn more about their culture. And so when you start to understand people's context as best you can with the time you have with them, it can take you a lot more than simply barking out orders to people. And so
Mm-hmm.
early on, some of that is you learn that at home. Respect
Yep.
people.
Yep.
Respect people.
I agree. I agree. So I have about two more questions before we move into another what I call sub theme.
Okay.
One talks about leadership evolution. So how did your leadership style evolve from your early career to your senior command?
Yeah. So early, I was a little more hands-on, working with soldiers. Later on, I was the policy writer. Okay. So let me go back. I started off as a tech supply officer, and basically, I managed over 3,200 line items of equipment, working to ensure that if any piece of equipment we had, if there was a maintenance issue, the parts were ordered. My first assignment was in Asia. And so I had to coordinate from where I was, sometimes back to the States, just to ensure that we had what we needed. I supported the DMZ mission. I was one of the most forwardly deployed female officers at the time, back in the early 90s. Um, and so a lot of what I did with troops. And so that was very good because at a ground level, I was able to, um, I had to go to the range. I had to do all of these things. And that doesn't change as depending on what you have to do. You still need to remain qualified for all of the things, physically fit, marksmanship, all of those things. But what shifted for me as I continued to go up in the ranks, it was less about being the the one to do the work to the one um, strategizing around the work that was needed.
Hmm.
So, writing policies, looking at studies. I also was part of a team, I led a team that was responsible for ensuring that our role and what we were doing at our headquarters was aligned with our national defense strategy. So, a lot of my work became more strategic in nature.
I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
So my last question has to do with misconceptions.
Mhm.
What misconceptions do civilians often have about military leadership?
Wow, that's a big question. Because I think um, I everybody's different to me, right? I've been in multiple countries, not just in the military, but traveling with my daughters. We love to travel, and
Mhm.
some of the things that I've heard is that military people are very strong-willed. They are hard. They lack emotional intelligence, that they're always in a hurry to get things done, and they're very authoritative in nature. Um,
Okay.
that
Usually
those are some of the
strong-willed is
things.
a code. Usually strong-willed is a code word for something that somebody is trying to say, but they're trying to say it nicely. But
Uh-huh.
okay, okay, okay. So how do you translate that? How do you translate those things? You being prior military.
So for me, I think that the military offers a lot of structure. I think that when it comes to the political side, people may not realize that just as corporate has political things, the military has political things too.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, what I love about it is that you can build community, you have a support team. One of the things we learn in the military is to focus on mission. So that would put us in on a common operating picture. So some of the things in the military I got to name, they didn't exist before, but part of the projects that I did, I was on the naming convention, and we called that a COOP, Common Operating Position, um, because there can be so many things happening at one time. A lot of the fluff is not tolerated because in the high stakes environment, you got
Hmm.
to get to
Yep.
the solution.
You don't you don't have time for that.
And we got to move, we got to communicate, and we got to move.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that people don't have compassion. One of the hardest things to know about, like in any combat situation, is when we have to bring people back because of severe injuries. One of the first things these severely injured soldiers want to know, when can I get back to my
Wow.
unit? When can I get back to my unit? And so there are very strong bonds that are built in the military. Um, it's something when you go through things together, you serve together, and you remember what your what duty station you saw each other or you crossed paths at and what you were doing. And so, while it's a small community, only 1% of our nation decides to even serve. Imagine that smaller number for females that are serving. And
Hmm.
so, you know, I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So let's move into high performance culture and strategy. You authored the High Performance Culture Blueprint.
Mhm.
What is the core thesis behind the framework?
Okay. So, number one, it's high performance people, high performance processes, and high performance systems. And at the core of that is the high performance leader, so that they can optimize all of those three areas. Within the blueprint, there are several layers, and you would think that I would have them all memorized, right? That would be too much like, right, but I can tell you this. Like when I talk about the high performance people, I'm talking about people who are collaborative team players and emotionally intelligent communicators, because that matters. So when at the intersection of all of my experiences in prayer, and sitting with the Father, like, how does it all work from a systematic perspective?
Mhm.
How can we ensure that we create cultures that perform at a high level? And those are some of the things that I saw, that it's the people, the processes, and the systems that support it. But at the core of that, because I believe that culture is set from the top down, but it's implemented from the bottom up, meaning that if culture, the conditions by which we get things done, does not align throughout those three areas, then we need to examine where the breakdown is. And within each of those areas, there are specific areas that are addressed within those.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you for a definition. So, how do you define a high performance culture beyond buzzwords?
Okay. A high performance culture, um, typically it'll, when if you look at Sheen, I was just looking at organizational culture and leadership today, just looking through some of what we know traditionally. It's an organizational environment where individuals and teams consistently achieve strong results through shared goals, accountability, and continuous improvement. Okay. That's if you were to go to academia, and look at some of the leading authorities on that. That's what they would tell you.
Hmm.
Some of the common elements are your clear goals and KPIs, accountability systems, performance management, employee engagement, continuous improvement practices. But from design high performance, what I try to look at and help with sustainability is intentionally designed environments where there is decision clarity, communication alignment, and leadership presence, that consistently produces repeatable, high quality outcomes under various levels of pressure. So when I think about the traditional definition of high performance, I consider our definition to be there's a duality to it. that
Hmm.
it works not just for the organization, but for the people that empower the organization to accomplish the results they desire.
I got that. I love that. Let's talk about breakdowns. What are the most common cultural breakdowns you see in organizations today?
Hmm. Again, I would go back to decision clarity, having clear decisions. With that comes ownership of who's responsible for it. Sometimes when people assign or they have these big projects and before they even have enough information to make decisions, they're already talking about solutions and not really clearly defining what what are we really trying to accomplish here.
Hmm.
And so getting on the same page, is this a financial issue? Are we trying to increase um, clients? What are we doing?
Hmm.
We say we want to work on this project, but we don't clearly define roles for people to own. So that way you know who's on what base and do they have the information that they need to make informed decisions, rather than just jumping to the solution set.
Yeah, I think people are very quick to jump to solutions because they want to be able to check it off as done
Right.
very quickly.
Exactly.
So let's talk about appearance versus reality. So, how can leaders diagnose whether their culture is actually high performing or just appearing to be high performing?
Well, if for example, oftentimes when you have a new project, everybody's super excited, but if innovation slows, conversations get thinner,
Hmm.
and no one's really sharing, that could mean that there's no psychological safety there. And so people
Hmm.
stop talking, or they don't have the resources. And so no one's giving a priority to what needs to happen with the resources that are available. So if we're not getting clarity around what the focus is, what the mission is, um, and direction, if the leader isn't sending the signals, because they do give off signals, right? And big
Hmm.
ambiguity is a signal.
Yep,
It's not
yep,
clear.
yep,
And if we don't know what we don't know, and I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but I
yep,
am saying that leaders have to send off a signal that we might not have the whole picture, but this is our next step.
yep.
And we can be clear about the next step. And once we take that step, but it's framing of that, setting the conditions to where, um, I used to say, for new people, I need you to dissent for the next 90 days. If it doesn't make sense, let me know, you know? So we had office hours, and those office hours were set aside for people to come and basically have gripe sessions, not complaining sessions, but literally, hey, I've done this, this doesn't work. Help me understand why we do this or that. And what did that do for me? It helped sharpen me to understand, ooh, we might need to look at that.
Hmm.
Simple little things that we can do to help sharpen the culture itself, make it psychologically safe for people to be innovative, to have ideas, and those ideas be welcomed. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. What are the first three actions a leader should take to shift a toxic or stagnant culture?
mm, um, I okay, wow. Because I believe every culture is different.
Hmm.
Um, then it literally depends. I think they need to get awareness. Like, where is the gap? What is it that they're not seeing that needs to be addressed. And I've worked with organizations that would say, it's my culture, it's my culture. But when we really looked at it, it really wasn't the culture that was the problem. People really loved their jobs, but your systems weren't operating properly. When it
Hmm.
takes, people were upset about it takes too long for our leaves or our vacation time to get approved. It had nothing to do with them enjoying their work. The system didn't support them getting quicker answers so that they themselves could plan. So I say that to say it's where is the gap? And so assessing where either it's in the design, it's in something that's not helping the people, or we don't have the systems in place to facilitate the work that's necessary. You have to determine what that is for your organization and then take steps to mitigate those things. But if I were to do like a global thought around it, it would be being clear about who owns the decisions,
Hmm.
like our people, systems, and all those things. But clarity matters when you're trying to operate at a high level. And then helping people understand how to escalate things versus what parameters you have to operate in.
Hmm.
So
And getting frustrated.
exactly, exactly. Help people understand those left and right boundaries and then help them understand how they escalate an issue. Again, owning who owns the decision. And then what, in doing those things, you help people understand what good decision making looks like in
Hmm.
your environment.
Absolutely.
And that is modeled because the most of the friction within culture, it's when people hesitate and they have to go through so many hoops to get answers.
Yeah.
So, letting them know what they can decide and what needs to
Yep.
be escalated.
That ownership.
Yes. Hmm.
So the last few questions are going to be under execution, talent, and retention. And
Okay.
so the first one is mentorship. And so
Hmm.
somewhere in my research, I came across you've mentored over 350 senior leaders. And so my question is, what separates high performing leaders from average ones?
Mm. I think, mm, so many things. But let me think of like my top ones would be that they are very self-aware. And because they are self-aware, they know their likes and their dislikes, and they can navigate through those emotions that sometimes get triggered when they encounter things that they dislike. They can internally still be present and supportive of individuals, even if they dislike certain aspects of the encounter. So I would say a high performance person is very self-aware.
That,
Um,
that's good. That's good. That's good.
yeah. Um, they don't allow how they feel to impact the mission, I guess is what I'm really trying to say. Um, and then again, you said tell me again
From,
what
from average, what separates high performing leaders from
from the
average ones?
average person. Yeah, the average person wants to be seen as a leader. I think a high performance person owns their leadership and wants to make impact. They want to empower others to become a better version of a leader than they were prior to encountering them. So it's kind of this idea of leave a person better than you found them.
Absolutely.
Um, and then I think the average. leader may only be concerned about outcomes, but a high performance leader, they really are concerned about the conditions in which that outcome is obtained as well. And so integrity and those things like character and um, ethics matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
not just about authority, command, and control. It's about empowering people to step into, they love, like as a high performance person, I love delegation. You know, um, and you find in cultures where people are empowered to bring their whole selves into that space, they thrive
Mm-hmm.
in safe
Absolutely.
environments where they are welcomed in that space.
So let's talk about struggle under the same vein. Why do so many organizations struggle with talent retention despite investing heavily in training?
Mhm. Um, wow, that brings to mind um a company that I um worked with doing, wow. Mm. Fear is number one. They're
Okay.
afraid that their own reputation will be impacted if I take time to mentor or spend time with people because I already have all these responsibilities. And what if they say I said this or I said that? I um I did a I wrote a chapter in this book entitled Madam President: How to Think and Act Like a Leader. And at the time, there were many books that were being nominated, and one person said, "Hey, didn't you write in this book? Let's put your book in here." So we did, and my book won. So I was able to facilitate the conversations around my chapter, which is, unconscious gender bias barriers in the workplace. And so there were 50 women in here in that session, and half of them were executives. The other half were professional technical employees. And what I discovered was one, because of the pressure, they didn't make time to sit and mentor other women. Part of it was you don't know them, but how can you know them if you don't get to know them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the executives were like, yeah, it's really lonely, but they had no outlet or no way to um, structure their busy days and spend quality time. I have what I call the minute to win it. I'll say this as a result of our time together, and we spent 4 weeks just on my one chapter talking about this. The company actually revamped their mentorship program as a result of our conversations and some of that feedback that was provided because that really grieved me that you won't, take 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and have a structured conversation just to get to know somebody, and you don't have to do it forever. You can do 4 weeks or 6 weeks, every other week, do it 3 times, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that might look like. Um, um, but fear of the unknown and the time it takes to get to know someone else. Um,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
I know
Um,
it's a workplace, but um, even if it's as simple as what made you decide to work here, how, just simple things that you
yep.
can bridge conversations around.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally believe in having relationships beyond those surface relationships.
Mhm.
And it's very telling when someone has acquired additional education or working a part-time job or something significant happened in their family structure and everyone in the department knows other than the supervisor.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
So,
how is that? How is, I mean, something that people would normally share because you didn't take the time to have beyond those surface conversations with them to
mhm.
even get to know that their daughter was a Girl Scout and she's the top Girl Scout cookie seller in the nation or whatever.
Right.
Things like that that matter to them, that matter
Exactly.
to them as a person.
Exactly. And then I'll say that's one of the things the military does very well. Typically we have a sponsor if somebody new is coming into an area and that sponsor gets to know the person. And then we have all other protocols that we use to get to know our soldiers. Like
Hmm.
we have regular counselings and those types of things. We understand where you're headed and what your aspirations are. But I, some organizations, they only get a review once a year.
Yep, yep,
And
absolutely.
how do you get to know your people if you don't take time?
They don't. They don't. So, Mike, I think I have about three more questions. What role does leadership accountability play in employee engagement and retention?
I think setting the conditions as a leader, the leadership presence, um, helping people understand what is tolerated here and what is not, and setting the conditions by which people obtain results. If we say that talent retention is our thing, then what are we doing to build relationships and ensure that we're doing what matters most within the parameters of what our work is, right? I'm not saying send people on a 10-day, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, what matters most to your people? Have you hosted a town hall to find out? Have you done simple little things like a huddle to bring people in to find out how they're feeling about their work? How do you communicate with your people that you care?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of doing a video and making sure that everybody checks the block to make sure they saw it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It goes a long way. And I'm not saying there are simple things like every 6 months or once a quarter, however you can fit it into your schedule. Um, do you pop in
Mm-hmm.
and just say hello to people?
Yep. Absolutely.
Simple things that can be done to build relationships.
So, how can leaders align performance metrics with culture and not just productivity?
Mean what they say what they mean, and mean what they say. Don't just put words on a poster and expect people to understand what that means. Give it life. So you're modeling it. If I say that we want to reward collaborative team players, which is a part of my blueprint under people. If I say I want to reward that, then why is it that we see individual accomplishments highlighted much more than team accomplishments? Simple
Uh,
things that
yep.
are counterintuitive because of the way that people have been conditioned to operate in competition. Are we really working for the same mission and outcomes? Or are we competing? So, being intentional about ensuring that what we say, um, what our internal motivation is reflected externally. So, I don't say one thing but mean another. I want the audio to match the video.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
live the culture, I live it rather than just saying it. And
That is good. That is good. That is good. And many times people don't tell you that the audio is not matching the video.
right,
They just react or not react because it's
exactly.
not matching.
Exactly. So they shut down, or
Mm-hmm.
there's a negative response to that because
Mm-hmm.
something's not the friction. The friction grows because people can sense that. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't levels to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that if a leader wants to sustain high performance, the duality of doing that involves them and the people that are getting the results. And so I can't give what I don't possess. And so Tiger Woods has a coach. Michael Jordan has a coach. And even though they weren't perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but they were the greatest of all times because they had a coach that helped them work on their things. And so getting in some sort of program like our cohorts, it design high
Mm-hmm.
performance is one of the ways that people can work on those invisible drivers that help them sustain high performance. Because it really is something that when they get into the ecosystem, they now get to practice real time in their workplaces the things that are discussed within the cohort.
Well, I tell you, Lawanda, we're gonna have to bring you back because I still got more questions left, and we're not gonna get to them. So I have one more question that I'm
Okay.
gonna ask, and then I'm gonna ask you to share with the sister leaders community how they can stay in contact with you, anything that you got coming up, being published, or whatever you have going on. So
Okay.
my last question is, what is one leadership behavior that silently destroys team performance?
Mm. Um, Let me think of the one that I would like to share. Um, Something that destroys, because I'm a big awareness person. So, but when you are talking to people, I do believe that you should talk for authentic connection. Don't, again, it's saying what you mean and meaning what you say and helping people understand what their role is in the organization, treating them with dignity. You said one thing, but all of these kind of roll into,
No, go
I
ahead.
get
Feel
like,
free. Feel free.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
fine.
It's being authentic and creating an environment. If you can't create an environment where you yourself can be your authentic self, then perhaps you're in the wrong place.
Hmm.
And being courageous enough to remove yourself. Because the minute you start eroding integrity and moral capacities and decision clarity and all of those things, that's gonna have a ripple effect. It's like, one rotten apple can spoil the group.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what you don't want is you want to go in with authenticity and clarity and um, opportunities for people because this is what they were called to do. This is what they were purposed to do. And people don't leave jobs because of the work. They leave because of bad bosses. And so
Hmm.
something can be done about that. You can learn new skills. You don't have to stay stuck. And because of whatever internal conflict that people are not willing to address, they stay stuck in a old paradigm that they have the ability to shift. So not being honest with yourself about how you really feel and then being able to articulate that in a way that is um, mission focused, and we help people with that, you know. It
Hmm.
may come out rough. Like we may not always get it right, but that's not something you might you want to go and tell the people. So, you know, like
Exactly.
work with somebody that can help you shape how you communicate what's really on your heart so that you're not being reactive, you're responding in a way that clearly articulates what the issue is surrounding the work that you're called to do and why you're being impacted in the way that you're being impacted. And so oftentimes those are invisible things, and people have to feel safe enough to reveal that. And in workplaces, sometimes you just need somebody outside of the workplace that you can talk to who's very familiar with what happens in the workplace to help you navigate that. And so we specialize in
Absolutely.
doing that. We help people with those types of things, but a lot of those internal drivers are responsible for the decision delays and why ownership is unclear. So.
Yep, I agree. So tell the sister leaders community how they can stay connected with
Right.
you if they're not already Googling you. So just tell them how they,
Yes.
because this has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful exchange of information. Where do you hang out? Where can they find you? What do you have going on? If you got any books or any programs or any events, are you going to be speaking anywhere, or just share what you'd like to share?
Okay. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for your questions. They were very good. I could have gone on some of them, but I had to narrow it down because you got my senses going. Um, I have a book. It's called The Invisible Advantage: The Art and Science of High Performance Professionals. Um, so it's out here, it's out there. People can find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Lawanda Holliman, Lawanda Joseph Holliman. Um, it's the picture with the green on. And I have a website, um, designhighperformance.com. So I do a master class, and it is typically posted on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is at Lawanda Built for This. It's LAWANDA BUILT, the number four, THIS. It's typically my master classes. I host those twice a month. And so they're typically ran on Facebook and Instagram. So if anybody wants to hop in on that, they can do that. If anybody wants a conversation, though, they can go to my website and schedule a time to talk with me there at designhighperformance.com.
Awesome. So this has been wonderful. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sure you're a very busy person. Thank you for stopping by the Sister Leaders podcast community. Um, we love leadership is my jam,
Yes.
and so by default it's their jam too, because it's definitely my jam. And so
Yes.
I have to stop myself. As I mentioned, I probably have about 10 more questions I didn't get to. So I'm just gonna file that away. Not gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna file that away because we're gonna get you back maybe on the third or fourth quarter. And so
Yeah.
as we wrap this up, I will be remiss if I didn't mention that, it's that time again where I am talking about the Sister Leaders Annual Conference, which is coming up October 2nd and 3rd. We are back at the casino, the Rivers Casino in Portsmouth, Virginia. And so, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to experience a Sister Leaders Conference, I suggest you go to sisterleadersconference.com. and sign up. It is a luxury leadership experience. And when I say luxury leadership experience, you just got to be there to know what I'm talking about. We pour into one another. We eat
Mm.
good food because, eating is my second love language. Um, Leadership is my first, eating is my second. And then I don't believe in networking, but I do believe in exchanging information. And so it is a community that is really built similar to myself. So if you've ever met me in person, if you ever heard me speak, I'm very open. I'll give you the shirt off my back, literally, in terms of giving you information. I truly want to see other leaders win, thrive, and succeed. And the majority of the people in my community are very, very similar. And so it makes for a very pleasant, sometimes exhausting, but pleasant 2 day experience. And it is an experience. And so go to sisterleadersconference.com if you want to know more. We'll be talking about it all the way up until October. We'll be doing a number of different things until October. And so we'll love to have you there. And so we're going to sign off, but we're going to see if we can get Lawanda back. She doesn't know it yet, but we're going to get her back later in the year so that we can talk more leadership. But signing off for now. Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Hold on one second. Let me hit the button.